Hey, good morning, everybody. I am here today to talk to you about having an open Ajna Center. Some people call it Anya, some people call it Anja. There's a bunch of different ways to say it. I'm going to call it Ajna. It's just easier. It's the way Ra came through with it. So I prefer to call it that. Whatever you choose, that's your choice. I want to talk about, though, having an undefined Ajna Center. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I just did a really awesome podcast this morning. And it was a really intense reminder about, in general, in society in general, about how we need to learn to navigate ourselves and not other people. We all have a tendency to expect other people to be the same and to respond the same as us and to think the same as us and to see things the same way that we do. And I remember having a conversation with somebody not that long ago where, I've had two conversations that really wraps this up beautifully. One was a conversation in which the person was trying to expect me to understand their point of view. And that's just not going to happen. We are not going to understand everything about somebody. For example, I lost my mother very early in life when I was 15 years old. It was 4 days after my 15th birthday. And losing a mother, specifically a mother at that age, is very traumatic, and a person grows up differently when they lose their mother. And no one is going to be able to understand that unless they've been through that similar situation. And even then, they're still not going to understand the way that you grew from that experience, right? So we're never going to be able to understand another person. We can respect that they have different views, but we cannot expect people to understand us. Trying to force people to understand you, it's almost a narcissistic tendency that so many people have. We all do it at some point in our lives. Some of us get over it, some people don't. And it's one of those things, though, where I have another friend, for example, who, when we have a conversation and I said, it's okay, I'm sure you're not going to understand. And she'll tell me, no, I don't understand. And that is perfect. That is beautiful. She doesn't expect to understand, and she knows that I don't expect her to understand me. Just hear me, right? That's all we need to do, is just hear people. Just be there and understand that they have something to express, but it's not for us to necessarily understand ourselves. Now, with the open Ajna Center, if it is not in balance, if you are struggling with it, a lot of the way that comes out, the way it looks, is by feeling like you are certain about something, that you kind of become rigid, right? Like it's this way of thinking that you have to agree with someone, or you have to disagree with someone. You have to figure something out in order for other people to be comfortable. So you come to a decision that feels like it is certain, and you know exactly what you're talking about. And the thing is, an open Ajna Center is never going to be that for you. I have an open Ajna Center, and I will be the first to say, in my experience, that the majority of my life was spent feeling like I was certain. And yeah, some of these stories are embarrassing, but I'm going to share them because they are valuable. And the more that I share my experience, the more others can open up to theirs. I cannot tell you how many relationships I have entered pretending that I was certain that I wanted to be in them, that this was what I wanted. This was long term. There was no way I wanted out of this. And the reality is, I did not want those relationships. But I had this I was not living in a healthy version of my Ajna Center. And so I felt the need to be solid in decisions and to make these people feel wanted and to make everything look perfect, right? Social media, talking to friends, like I cannot tell you how much I emphasized in conversations that I was so happy in these relationships and everything was exactly how they were supposed to be. But the bottom line was, I was not certain. I was not sure that I wanted to be with them. I wasn't sure of the reasons why I wanted to be with them. but I pretended to be, because that is what happens when we are living from an unhealthy, open Ajna center. We have this idea that we need to be 100% certain when we are never going to be 100% certain. And that is a beautiful thing when we can embrace that we do not have to be certain on anything. We actually move into things that are way more in alignment for us, because we actually take the time to allow the mind to do what it needs to do and actually think instead of making decisions. And we move into a space of openness and uncertainty. And uncertainty is beautiful for us who have open Ajna centers. And the reason this came up so strongly is because one of the biggest reasons why I love human design is because it's that reminder to stop trying to put people in a box and stop trying to make them think a certain way or believe a certain way. And the open Ajna center is just like the most beautiful representation of this. It's when we try to make people think one way or the other, and our society does this with children. I mean, the world tends to do this with children, where we just push these ideas on them and we tell them how they're supposed to think and how they're supposed to feel, when we need to remember that we all have different designs. And this has been my absolute favorite thing about human design coming into my life, because it just made so much sense. I did not relate to what my parents were doing or what they were saying, and they never forced that on me. They never forced me into religion. They never forced me into believing a certain thing or doing a certain thing. And I am so grateful for that. But a lot of parents don't do that. We are forced into society to believe one thing, and this is how it's going to be, and this is rigid, and it's black and white. And when we can open up and remember that everybody receives information differently and everybody acts differently, we can really stop pushing people to understand one another and just to hear one another and to give each other space to really be their most authentic self. So many of us become afraid of not being received, like we're going to be rejected or they're not going to understand me. And that is an ego. That is an ego-based feeling that we can tap into when we look at the human design from this aspect, and to really honor our design and to honor other people's designs. And it really helps us when we understand these things about each other, because someone with an open Ajna center is going to respond completely differently than someone who has a defined center. And when we can really learn those and stop trying to make each other fit into these little boxes, we can actually communicate so much better with one another. Now, granted, there is that thing where certain people are actually going to affect our charts, not so much in a positive way. And so we can learn to navigate those and to see, like, is this in my best interest? Is this actually something for me? And to ponder everything and not just jump. I was a jumper. I cannot tell you how many times I jumped into things. And this is another unhealthy Ajna thing. I would jump into things thinking, this is what I want to do. And I would put it out there and I would tell people, this is what I'm going to run with. Like, I wanted to open up a climbing gym and I was so certain about it. I made sure, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up a new gym because Austin really needs one. They really do. I'm not there anymore. But point is, I was certain that that's what I was going to do. And then something happened a few weeks later. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to move away. But I put those things out there and I sounded so certain. And yes, you know what? We sound like flaky motherfuckers when we respond from this place, because we don't have any of our other motors running, and they're not going to be able to dictate all of those things that are coming out of our Ajna center. That's untouched. They're not connected. And so when we're responding from a really good place of the Ajna center, we are giving ourselves space to just feel everything out, to examine all of the thoughts that are being processed, and to let it just be that, nothing but thought. Because when we try to respond from that place, oh, I'm going to open up a climbing gym. Oh, I'm going to open up a new massage parlor. Oh, I'm going to do all these things. Cannot tell you how many times I have jumped into something thinking this is what I was going to do, and how much money I have put into things that were not for me, but I jumped into them thinking that this is what I was supposed to be doing because of my thought processes. And more importantly, because of what other people in my environment, who I thought were positive influences at the time, were speaking. I took them on and thought like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do too. And now when I really have a decision to weigh in, I give myself so much time. Sometimes a lot of people can get frustrated with how long it takes me, but that's okay, because if it is a decision to be made that's actually going to take you forward in this life in a positive way, take time. Like, allow this space to be a good, amazing guiding light just with your thoughts. It's nothing but thought processing. And it's okay to be uncertain. We don't know anything. We really don't. We're never going to reach a point of certainty. We can reach clarity and we can reach decisions that feel like, yes, this is what I want to move forward with. We're always still going to have an I don't know in the back of our head though, because we don't know. And pretending that we do know is just comical. It really is funny when you can like step outside of all of the pain of it and things that you might have put yourself through that you probably didn't have to. But the thing is, it's a beautiful thing to not know and give your space to not know. Give yourself space to not know and allow people to be themselves. Like, really give people the space to think for themselves and to feel for themselves, and don't rush them into decisions. Allow them the time that they need to come forth with it. We don't know their human design right off the back, unless like the first thing you do when you go out on a date is like, hey, what's your human design? Which I do, admittingly. I have done that before. But either way, it's just a beautiful process. And I just really wanted to speak on this because it touches on so much. It was just that reminder that we pressure people to be something that we can relate to instead of letting them be themselves and learning how to integrate ourselves into that space and vice versa. And I'm telling you, the world is going to change when we can like incorporate all of this and really learn to navigate the world for our differences instead of trying to force each other to think exactly the same. So yeah, that's my rant for the day. And I am excited to put the podcast out there. It's a really good one. It's with a really awesome guy. He's top charts in the Apple right now, in the Apple podcast. So it'll be good. And I have another human design reading coming up with another really amazing podcast who I'm actually not going to name out yet. But yeah, that's all. I hope everyone is having a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.